Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another super cool radio interview. I'm your host, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have an incredible guest joining me at this time. He is the writer and director for the film The Still Life, the former roadie for Guns N' Roses, Stone Temple Pilots, Poison, and the Cranberries, and the author of Memoir of a Roadie, which was the number one new release on Amazon in bios. Please welcome Joel Roadie.
You did your research. That's cool.
I
Thank you.
did.
Yeah, that was good. I like that. That's good intro. That was a lot of life stuff. That's good. Right on.
I know you've had a very impeccable career. Plus, I didn't even mention you host your own podcast, Party Like a Rockstar, as well. So we're going to be getting to all of those facets of your career throughout this whole interview.
Okay, neat. Let's jump. I like it.
So I'm curious, starting with the music side, like how'd you get started as a roadie? Like how'd you get into that part of the music industry?
So it's random, actually. So my father was a car mechanic. He specialized in Jaguar cars mostly. He did a lot of high performance cars, mostly English, because my parents were from England, right? And so, well, my mom's alive, so my mother is from England, I should say. So sorry, Mom. Anyway, so my father was redoing a E-Type Jaguar is the name of the car for a guy who worked for Stone Temple Pilots. He was the lighting designer. And I was in between stuff. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, And this guy, basically, my dad made him hire me. So this guy took me on the road. He said he was going to take me out like a week later. I thought the guy was full of crap. Honestly, I didn't think about it. And then, sure enough, I think it was really about a week later. Suitcase packed. I was on a plane and I was heading to my first gig working for Stone Temple Pilots. So it was true. But yeah, it was a little bit of a random way to get into the business because a lot of people, they start from what you would imagine would be, let's say, the bottom, which is small clubs and whatnot. And then they do van tours and they climb that ladder. I kind of got really lucky where I never did a van tour. So, yeah.
All right. And so growing up, did you ever think you'd be involved in the music industry? Was that ever an interest for you or?
Yeah. No, honestly,
Okay.
really, truly, yes. So where I grew up, across the street was the singer of a band called Fishbone, a guy named Angelo Moore, right? He's singing a band called Fishbone. And I thought Angelo was so cool. I know better now, no. So he's I consider him like an older brother because he influenced me very heavily. He was neat, the Chili Pepper guys would be hanging out at his house at parties and they'd jam in the driveway and the garage. And he was just cool. And he introduced me to a lot of really great music. And so as I got older, it was something I wanted to do. Touring actually wasn't my first gig. I worked at a recording studio when I was younger and I hated it. I did. So I would just get drunk and I'd pass out on the couch all the time. But they wanted me to be an assistant engineer, which means you basically plug in the stuff in the patch bay. And I just didn't give a crap. But the people coming through liked me. One of the bands was actually Poison, who, as you mentioned, I toured with years later. So this small world, the Billy Idol was in there, and I was, oh man, that's so cool. It is cool. And so they kind of got rid of me because they're like, you just have no interest in doing this. And I'm like, yeah. And they weren't paying me either, by the way. So I did that for a little while. Then I jumped to other stuff. And then this opportunity, as I later found out, I really do consider it an opportunity, came about, and I got to tour with what I feel is one of the best bands ever. It was Stone Temple Pilots. And so it parlayed from there, my friend. But yeah, that's how.
Oh no, that's just so cool. Just how just a chance opportunity like that, comes about very unexpected. But you made the most of it because obviously we're here many years later and we're talking about your whole career and lifespan. So I think it's really awesome.
Yeah, cool. I do too. Yeah, it was a really fun time. I was 22 years old, I think, when I first started touring. And so most people at 22 don't have many things to tie them down in the world. You don't have mortgage, you don't have kids, you don't have wife. Most people, I don't know, it depends where you're at maybe in the world, but I had none of that. So for me to go away was just sort of fun and interesting. It's hard though. And so they toughened me up, which I will say, yeah, in hindsight, I needed it. So I started to get a little bit better at I don't know, taking care of stuff.
I got you. So what do you think like some of the biggest like just learning opportunities you had through being a roadie?
They're being a roadie. So I wasn't wealthy growing up. My dad, as I said, was car mechanic. It's not like we had tons of money. We didn't, but I also don't remember being real hungry. So that we were in the middle maybe. And what was really good was when I went out on the road, there was no security blanket. I realized really quickly that these guys, and what I meant is by these guys, it's not particularly the band, it's the crew. They didn't give a shit about me. If I died, I died. Or if maybe that's a little aggressive, but if I got fired, who cares? Who's the next guy? And I saw they did. They ran through personnel very, very quickly. And so I had a couple things happen where I realized like if I don't want to lose this opportunity of like personal growth, I really need to hanker down and focus. And so I did. I switched things up and I began to take the job seriously. And I think for the first time in my life, that's what happened. I took it seriously because I didn't want to get fired. That's really the book is about. A lot of that is just some bozo who doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And they're funny stories because it's like, who would be that stupid? and not getting fired for being that dumb. And that's what a lot of the book is truly about. There was no Bible, there was nothing to tell you what to do. And the older cats, fire them. Who gives a crap? Next. And so you got to fight for your way. And yeah, it worked out in the end. It ended up being a great experience. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear. Obviously, it did work out then. So, like, do you think that like kind of personnel, like turnover rate and mentality, do you think that's still the same in the industry?
It's interesting, actually. So on the podcast now, I do what's called reaction videos mostly, which means I watch a music video, and to me, it's like Beavis and Butthead. I'll discuss it and whatever, and I bring on music guests and we talk. When I first did the podcast for about a year, I interviewed roadies, and I did 2 a week, and I brought on 2 guests every single time. And I got to interview pretty much everybody in the business, honestly, on the roadie side. And then I brought in some rock stars, but those aren't as cool as the roadies. So I brought them on, and it has evolved. It's changed dramatically. What's happened in the music industry is that it's become more and more a business. So when I was a roadie, it was strange that I was a college graduate. Most of the people I toured with were not, with the exception of sound guys. Sound guys had been educated maybe a little bit more than some of the Carpenters and stuff like that. But now I find that most of the people, so as I was bringing on the new guard, people that honestly began their careers after I even stopped touring, were very different than what I had toured with. They were computer guys, and then their knowledge bases are really big. They know how to do all this stuff, which I didn't know how to do, editing and all this stuff that you've been doing, Matt. And so it's changed a lot. The other thing that's changed a lot is women. There's women in the industry now. When I toured, it was far and few between. And yeah, we were hard on them, I would say. So now I love that there's a lot of women involved in the industry, very successful too. So that's a cool improvement. I like that.
Well, I'm glad that it has evolved more. That it's more that kind of old way of thinking is not really it doesn't really go in the music. I'm sorry, I totally didn't have a sentence there.
No, you're okay. You're okay. So it is the old way in a little bit. But the thing is that the guys who I toured with back then, and some women, they were street smart. They really, really were. And I question how some of the new guard, how street smart they are. I needed that knowledge. That's what I needed. I needed to be toughened up. So now touring, I'm actually a dinosaur. People say all the time, "Oh, would you go back on tour?" And it's like, to do what? I don't know I don't know how any of it works anymore. The industry's changed so dramatically. So yeah, it's just a different level of intuition, because some of those street smart guys, they were super, super intelligent. They just didn't go to college and read books and stuff. So it's different ways of learning things.
Oh, definitely, for sure. Sorry, I had a sentence and just didn't come out right. But
Yeah, it came out right. I think I understood what you said. Yeah.
yeah, no, you did. No, it is interesting. You definitely can learn like different you can experience and learn different things without going to school. Like I I didn't go. I just got back into going to school to finish my bachelor's degree. But like for
Cool.
a while, I was just like doing this podcast and just learning on the fly, which is very fun. But now, like I kind of need some, an actual degree to kind of move up to the next level. But you can learn a lot through experience.
You can. What's your degree in?
It's gonna be communications.
Okay, so there you go. So you're implementing it, which is more than what a lot of people do with their college degrees. So it's neat that you're actually, having the internal resources to go out and find something to do rather than wait for someone to find you. Because that's what I think. I sound like an old guy now. That's what I think I find with a lot of the newer or the younger people is that they're waiting. And if you recall, what did I do in the beginning? I was waiting. I was doing nothing. I was going to the bar every day, to be perfectly honest with you, which was great. But my father's the one who kind of flicked me on my course. So it's hard to get going.
Oh no, it definitely is. But I do think nowadays, especially, I think it's more accessible. I'm not saying it's easier, but I think it's more accessible to do a podcast or really build your like portfolio. I think it's more accessible nowadays to do that. But you do have to have that drive to get started.
You do, but to me, podcasting, I have a question if you feel the same. It's like video gaming to me. I was never a gamer, but to learn how to do it all is difficult. And there's nothing online that's very good at telling you, hey, do this and add that and touch it. And so the struggle was fun for me. My first video out of the gates it did great. I got 3,000 views or something. And I'm like, ah. And after that, whew, I struggled and struggled. So I think it was that challenge that made it fun for me. And I'm not the biggest guy on YouTube by any means, but I feel like I'm comfortable where I'm at now. I'm having fun with it, which is what I wanted out of it. And I think that's why you play the video games. So on here, you get to chat to interesting people and maybe they want to talk to you,
I'm not at your YouTube level yet, but I think honestly I'm doing it for the fun and to really gain experience, and like I've done so many cool things and probably similar for you that you never would have done if you weren't given this opportunity or started in it. I've
Sure.
traveled so much. I was just up in Detroit for a show. I got some other shows that I just talking about right before this interview. So I love to do traveling, go to shows, and I have this opportunity through this platform. And I think that's awesome. And I'm definitely not going to waste the opportunity.
Absolutely. And what's also really fun, I found, because none of us really make any money podcasting, is it's a really fun community because there's really no reason to be competitive. It's not like you're doing any better than me. Even if you got 100,000 subscribers, I know what you're making and it's not a lot. And so that for me is really fun. I like the camaraderie of it all.
Oh, exactly. I was talking to my producer last night about like, people always think there's competition and always want to tear people down. And I'm just like, what's the point, really? We're not like in the race against each other. Honestly, if we work together, we can actually accomplish more. And I hope more people kind of build and kind of implement that mindset because we're going to do great things if we build a strong community.
Absolutely. I totally think so. So I've been enjoying getting to know other podcasters and give them a hard time. It's good, but that's the roadie way.
Hey, feel free to give me a hard time for this whole interview. I do not mind.
Okay, deal.
So obviously, I said you were roadie for Stone Temple Pilots, Poison, the Cranberries, and Guns N' Roses. Which one did you like? Which one was like your favorite to be a roadie for?
So I get asked this a lot. So it really depends on what level. So I'll give you a more concise answer so it doesn't get boring. Stone Temple Pilots was really important to me because, as I said earlier, it kind of helped me grow up into being a bit more of an adult. The other thing about STP was I cared about going on the road with the Chili Peppers. And the Chili Peppers, and actually that band Fishbone I was telling you about, were on that same first leg of our tour. And I had Californication album too, and I listened to the hell out of it. STP, I had one of their records, but I didn't really listen to it very much. And when I went on the road with them, I realized the opportunity as a fan, because as I watched them play, I'm like, man, these guys are really good. I had not experienced concerts very much before. I'd only been to a couple. I'd been to Steve Miller, and I think I was on mushrooms. And so I didn't even really, I don't know how much of it I took in. Now, maybe I took in more. I don't know. But that's what happened. And man, I hadn't really been to a lot of shows. I've been to small punk shows, which I was super into, but this was a whole different level. These were big, big shows with bands that I knew all the names. I just didn't necessarily know all their music. Well, what I saw and what I experienced with STP was along the sides of the stage every night were all the huge bands watching the band I was working for on my first tour. And I knew that little bit was so, so cool. And I remember seeing Ozzy Osbourne watch every single STP performance. Never blinked, by the way. He would just sit there staring. But he would never miss STP play. Metallica, whenever they did shows with us, would watch STP play. And Howard Stern would always be there watching when he could. And Dennis Rodman and all this stuff. And that's cool. I mean, really, really neat. As I began to climb up the ladder and became the stage manager, I talked a little bit to these guys, but what was really exciting was I get to watch them every night. You don't, even though you're Dennis Rodman, which is so cool. I'm the one who gets to watch this band every night and love it and realize how truly, truly good STP was. So to answer your question, it's probably STP because that's the first that I say, right? However, when I was growing up, my favorite band in the whole world, hands down, no question, Guns N' Roses. I loved Guns N' Roses, and I used to run, before I got chubby here, every single day. I'd run miles every day, miles and miles, and I always listened to Appetite for Destruction with a little bit of Scorpions for some breathing time. But and it was the lame song. It was Wind to Change, actually. So anyway.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I don't know. So you're breathing time. See, Wind of Change, right? That would be fitting. But with and some AC/DC and thrown in there. If we had tape cassettes, and so you couldn't fit a whole song in because Rocket Queen is long, dude. So you could only fit a little something in there, but you want to fill the whole cassette. So I really did enjoy Guns N' Roses. First CD I ever bought. I'm sort of the cusp of the tape cassette to the CD generation. So first CD, Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. And then lo and behold, I got this great opportunity to work for Guns N' Roses. And I remember my boss came into the room, and he was an important guy to me. He was a big guy, I say in my book, in all senses of the word. He was a large human being, but had a large personality, and he's very important in the music industry. He's a really, truly great man. And so he sat me down. He said, so we got to talk here, man. He goes, because and this was past me being worried about getting fired every 5 seconds. So he said, the next band we're working for, it's a big deal. And I'm going to need you to be on the ball. I can't really babysit you because it's a big, big, big job. And I looked, I'm like, it's Guns N' Roses, huh? And he goes, I need you to be like proper, you're going to have to be. And I'm like, it's Guns N' Roses. And I was so excited because there was only one band in the world that he knew I would be lame in any way about. And that was Guns. And so we started doing some Guns N' Roses stuff. And I felt like I had climbed to the top of that ladder. I used to say my Rolling Stones, but they weren't the Rolling Stones. They were Guns N' Roses. They were my favorite band. And that was so exciting. It really, really, truly was.
Obviously, you've worked for, legendary bands that, like, if anyone had the opportunity, even just one night to, be a part of their, backstage, tour managing and stuff like that, they would be, ecstatic about. But you've had the opportunity to, as you said, watch, many bands every night, which is incredible. So I'm curious for you because, like, I see, like, sometimes, like, people either, like, love, like, small club shows or they love going to, like, huge arena shows. And, like, I do see, like, some hate on, like, some of the huge, like, arena shows. People think, like, oh, these bands are selling out or something like that. So what do you think is, like, the biggest, like, misconception for, like, that, like, arena style, like, touring bands?
What you just said, selling out's bullshit.
No, I don't agree with it. That's what people say.
No, and that's okay. Not picking on you, but so yeah, selling out. So the idea of selling out is so the band you like is now appreciated by more people, and they actually have the ability to pay their bills. Oh no, God, how horrible!
It's a travesty,
especially music, as hard as it is to do. So that to me is like a shortcoming, I think, of us as the audiences. Bear in mind, I'm in Los Angeles. We're terrible, man. If you're in Detroit, they friggin' root you on. You could suck, but they're like, you suck the best. Out here in LA, we're just mean. The luxury of a small little club is it's a more intimate way to see a band. So it does bring you back to that grassroots level, even if they are huge, because it's just you and sweat and, if it's a good show, blood and beer and alcohol and just smell, right? That's a great show. When you're in the huge amphitheater, there's air everywhere, there's oxygen, and so it's not as stinky, and so it's not as good. But with the huge stage, it's a different vibe. If the front man or the front woman, the front person of a band is able to captivate your interest on a big stage like that, means they're so good. If they can do small clubs and big stages, oh man, it's so very neat. On a big stage, you now have those video walls, which are so cool. You might have dancers. You have a lot more glitz and glamour, and it's really neat. I think it's the best of both worlds, personally. I don't know if there's an answer. I would suspect most people would say that little club show. But let's face it, if it's your favorite band, you might not really get that opportunity. It's just, or you're paying an absolute fortune to go see a band, which is a tough part today, especially. Taylor Swift, for example, people pay these like $25,000 or whatever to go see this girl play. I just, it's crazy to me.
Oh yeah, that's more money than I make in a week. I can tell you that.
They pay a lot of money. Back when I was touring, like Marilyn Manson or Kid Rock, you'd have to rob a lot of trailer parks to get enough money to go see Kid Rock for $25,000. So it just didn't work out. It wasn't quite the same.
Oh no, I think so, and definitely. I mean, again, I've not been involved in that side of the industry, or like ticketing or anything like that. But yeah, it does seem, and especially too, like if I do go to like those arena style like shows, which I don't go, unfortunately, not too often. But like it's like, oh, $50 for a ticket, fantastic! I get to check out. It's like $100 now. And I'm like, what happened between point A, point B here?
And they haven't really changed it. I know Pearl Jam has tried. A lot of these bands have really made an effort, but they haven't been very successful. Those prices are still high, and you're not counting for parking, beer, T-shirts. Next thing you know, you're a $500 out. For a lot of America, let's just stick with the United States. That's half your rent.
Exactly, and even depending on where you live, that might not even be half. It's but yeah, no, that's money that it could be food, gas money, rent, other things. So it's a conscious effort that like, do I want to go to the show and spend this money? And like sometimes it is where like again, I go to both club shows and arena shows, just depending on which band I want to see. And
what was the last arena show you went to?
Last arena one was I saw it was the Freaks on Parade. It was Alice Cooper, Rob Zombie, Filter, and Ministry.
Oh, you're all hard. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then the one where they are, I would say, maybe not like arena, but at least, bigger stage. But I saw them in a very small club. I saw Living Color at the Bottom Lounge in Chicago, which that was incredible.
Yeah, I had Corey Taylor on my podcast, and he was super fun.
Yeah, I saw that interview. I was watching a little bit of that. But yeah, they are just so incredible. And like what I really like just especially about them is they just look like it's just effortless, for them to play. It is incredible just to watch them, and just they make it look too easy, honestly.
Well, they've been playing together for so long. That helps. And they are so talented. Corey's always nice, just chill. Oh yeah, right, yeah.
And one of my favorite part about that, one of my favorite parts, obviously, just watching them was, just an incredible experience. But so like the bass, unfortunately, there was an issue with the bass, so they had to stop like mid song, and like so they had like trying to fix. I don't know what the issue was, but they're trying to fix that, and like someone from the crowd, which they're being an idiot, they said, "Oh, just play without him," and Corey's like, "What do you mean? We need him."
See, so in live performances, that's the fun stuff is when accidents happen. That's what makes it a live performance. That's what makes it different every single night. It's those mistakes, those accidents, those things that just happen. With STP, for example, when there was an issue, the band would just start playing Zepplin. It was so good, or sometimes the Doors. And then if it was something else going on with the backline, backline's the instruments and stuff. Scott Weiland would sing the Carpenters. And oh man, just crushed it. So that's the fun stuff. That's the little bit that you don't get out of an album or a non-live performance of some sort, a music video, whatever. So that's the stuff I loved, and I still do. I love watching various versions of tracks just to see the differences.
That is so cool, especially, and that's just kind of like true like musicianship of it. Just to oh, there's an issue, but we're still going to entertain the crowd and bust out something that they might not expect. Like I would not expect STP to sing some Carpenters or Doors or Zepplin or something. Even though I'm sure they could do it very well, I'm not saying that, but it's just unexpected.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so exciting. And so with Scott, again, with the Carpenters, I don't think most of the people in the audience, I thought maybe they thought it was a joke or something. But if you went through Scott's CD book, which he took with him everywhere, you would find several Carpenters CDs. He was a big fan, bunch of them. I wish they would release these Carpenters recordings. I've always wanted. I'm actually bringing on my podcast here this week the manager of STP when I was working with him. So I'm super excited. This guy's name is Steve, because I was the lowest guy on the totem pole and he was the highest. And so now, and we still stay in touch. He's a great human being. He was just telling me about Scott back in the day, Red Cross. I was a big fan of Red Cross and all these various bands that I was like, oh, cool. All right. So it's neat. It's understanding and knowing all of those influences that make you like who you like and stuff. So, because Steve was with them before they got signed, everything. He's the one who like put all the glue together to make these guys fly. It's so neat. So,
well, it's just so cool. What I really like is like, you hear like, music for musicians that like, oh, they're, in that, certain genre, but then they're like, yeah, like I'm a huge fan of the Carpenters or the Doors, or there's something completely different from the genre that they, that they play for the most part. And I just think that's so cool just to hear like what their influence, even if they're not in the same genre.
Yeah, well, look at Sign of Silence with David with Disturbed. I mean, obviously he was a fan, right? And now that song is just so huge. And who would have thought Disturbed would have pulled Simon and Garfunkel? So it is. But good music stays good music. It doesn't change.
Oh, exactly. And what I really like about Disturbed, like I've heard like, when that song came out, I think that was like 2016, I want to say. So around that time, I started to hear more people like, oh, they started like discovering Disturbed. And I was like, of course, I knew what Disturbed was for a while before then, but it's just so cool to see. And I think it just shows how versatile and talented Disturbed is to be able to pull off something like that and have, people even not like metal fans or hard rock fans, starting to listen to their music. I think just shows the caliber of their talent.
So with Disturbed, right? So that was on MTV. I'm out with STP, and I think I'm the coolest guy in town. I was such an egotistical little crap, right? And I'm looking at the TV. I'm, oh man, this is what's wrong with music today. Is they got crap like this, and this is what people are listening to, not like STP. This is garbage. Remember, boss again. He looks at me. He goes, sometimes you just shut up. You talk too much. You got big mouth. He's like, you never know who you're going to work for. Shut up. 2 weeks later, Disturbed was the opening band on the tour with us. And I actually started to really like them. They were really nice dudes. Really, really cool. The whole band were awesome. And then David, what he would do, he'd put him in this electric chair in the beginning of the performance, and he'd be electrocuted. And I was the Grim Reaper. I'd put him in the chair, right, every night. And so I talked to him a bunch, and he was a super cool guy. And through the loudspeakers, you, David Draymond, you've done, you raped and pillaged and destroyed, and you will be, marked to death. And then he'd get up and start singing one of their songs, and it was hard not to like. It was a great performance. It was really, really good. So it just took me a few weeks and a live performance. I think live Disturbed is so much better than the music videos.
Oh, I think so. Like you see like the true skills and like performance side of a band by seeing them actually live. And like to me, sometimes I listen to the record and like it sounds good, sounds fine, but it's like seeing them live and actually perform it, I think is it's very different for some musicians and some bands. Like I like Mammoth Van Halen. And like his albums, I don't like they sound good, but like it doesn't capture him seeing that band live. They're just so good that it's
Yeah.
hard for an album to capture that.
Oh, it's the little bit extra, it's the feel of it all. And then it's always performed different than the album. And it's always interesting. So when the guy's voice inflection goes high, but on the album it's low, you're like, ooh, that sounds good too. Which one do I like? I don't know. Focus. Because the song's already moving forward. That's fun. I'm a sucker for like 20-minute versions of 5-minute songs. I'm so into that. I love it. So that's good.
Oh no, I saw Edgar Winter open for Alice Cooper, and he did I think 20 minutes of I think it was a Tobacco Road. I don't remember the song, but it was awesome. It had a bass solo, guitar solo. It was truly incredible, and again, it just shows like that kind of improv style, of just being able to do stuff like that. Again, just goes to like show the the skills of the musician.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's really neat stuff. And like you had said earlier, the ease at which they're able to do it, just the flow. Like, yeah, this is no big deal. That's so neat.
Oh, exactly. And again, I'm always like, again, I'm not like a musician, but I do host a music podcast, but I'm not really a musician. That's why I host a show. But it just I'm always just impressed to see it. Just still, you could tell like when like musicians are like trying to like concentrate and perform, and when they're just like having fun because they already know everything already. Like they have the muscle memory and the notes all down. To me, it just
Yeah.
adds to the show.
Well, it's not a crappy job at the end of the day. If you're paying your bills and they're big bills and you're doing it through playing an instrument, that's not a way. It's not a bad life. It's pretty
Oh,
good stuff. It's pretty good.
exactly, exactly. Now, I do want to talk about. I can talk about music, and I'm sure you can.
Sure.
For hours on end. But I do
Yeah.
want to talk about your podcast, your YouTube channel, which is Party Like a Rock Star. I've been checking out. You do reactions, you do interviews, you do quite a bit of stuff. So I'm curious. So like for you, like how do you like for the reaction videos, which I've seen you've been mostly uploading that from your recent videos. How do you go
Mhm.
about choosing the music? Is it like stuff like people like, hey, you should check this out, or is this music you like? Like, how do you go about that?
It's them telling me to check it out mostly. And so now there's groups that I've discovered all through the subscribers, honestly, like every band came through them. Now there's bands that I definitely like. And so I'm subscribed to their channels and I get the same update you would and I get on it. But I also get like 10, 15 people writing to me like, dude, tomorrow there's a new so a lot of times I already know, but I like them communicating with me because it kind of builds the hype and it makes me more excited to check out a new track from a lot of these artists that I feel are up and coming. But yeah, it's really all from subscribers. So and that was what the fun part was for me is people saying, oh, check this out, check that out. And me going, oh man, I actually really genuinely like this. It was neat.
Oh, it definitely looks like, and you look like you always have so much fun, reacting to these videos and stuff. And and from the guests you've had to like guest react with you, and some people I've actually had on the show as well. Mixie from Stitched Apart, she's been
She's
on your
great.
show as well. She's amazing. I love that band,
Yeah.
and no, it's cool. Cool to see her react to videos as well.
Yeah, I think she really enjoyed it. I'm pretty friendly with Randy. And so that's how I connected with Mixie. Randy's a total bro. I've known him for a while. And so having her on was just exciting because I could tell that she genuinely was liking some of these bands she'd never heard of. And some of it surprised me she didn't know. And that's always fun. Takes you back to being that little kid. And it's kind of like, man, wait till you hear this Kiss album. So good. So I dig it.
Oh, it definitely is. I'm actually looking at doing reactions for my channel as well. Always a lot of stuff that people like send to me like, oh, it's cool, check it out. And then like either I usually go for like an interview or something. Like what, let me just do like some reactions, just to see because I
Sure.
love music videos. I think just the visuals of it. And there's a lot of great bands out there, as you know very well.
Yeah, there really is. And, it has a couple other benefits, especially for you as a communications major, is it gives you more on-screen time. You'll be a lot more comfortable on camera more and more because it's what you're doing so much of. Also, there's so much new material coming your way. You're not going to have a lack of stuff to go over. And so it's healthy in a lot of formats. And then it's exciting when you watch something that you genuinely like. It's really neat. And there's other people that do it where they just like everything so that they get more people to watch. And I don't hate on it. You do whatever you want to do. I don't care. But in my particular case, it's more fun to be honest. So when they hate me, which happens, man, I kind of like it a little bit when they get real mad. I don't mind it at all. You're a moron and you suck. And you're like, I've been told that many, many times by my mother, and I don't know, but I like that. So yeah, I get blasted sometimes for not liking something. But
Wow, I mean, it's the internet. I'm not surprised by that. That's always what gets me. Is like it's someone's opinion.
yeah,
They can have that opinion, even if it's if you like it or don't like it, it's still someone's opinion.
It's so on point. You're just one dude. If the band's big enough, who gives a crap what you or I think? I mean, you think it should matter in any way? Oh, I don't know. They've got 4 million subscribers, and you don't like their new song. Woo! Who cares? And so that I've always liked.
Exactly. It's like again, look at any huge national touring but we'll take Disturbed for example. Just because you don't like one of their songs, not really going to affect them too much. And honestly, if anyone likes it or dislikes, that's it's cool. It's music. It's subjective to whoever's listening to it.
Yeah, I got one of my friends. I'm not going to say what band, but he's in a band, and they're huge. They're a really, really big band. And we're hanging out, and he's like, "What do you think, Joel? I mean, you think we suck anyway?" I never said that you suck. And he goes, I know that you think we suck. And I'm laughing away because I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of not the biggest fan. But I'm really good friends with the guys in the band, Oh, I don't know. You sold 8 million records. So what would I think? Like, it really makes a difference. That's where it's fun to me. I'm still drinking a beer, eating a hamburger, laughing at each other. But we have music that we both like that's similar. And that's interesting, too, that I don't really like the Foo Fighters very much. And they're like the biggest band in the world. So that so many people I know, in fact, almost everyone I know loves this band so much, and I don't necessarily like them. That, to me, is cool. It's actually very interesting. So what am I hearing differently than like all of the masses? And then how could I like Nirvana a lot, and you like Nirvana a lot, but I don't like Foo Fighters a lot, and you like Foo Fighters. And that's neat. It gives us a little bit of change.
Yeah, no, anyone can like or dislike a band. It's totally cool. Guess what? It's everybody's opinion. And, you can have that opinion if you want. It's
we all thought
simple.
the same thing. It'd be very boring, my friend.
Exactly. And then there wouldn't be... We wouldn't have conversations as we're having like right now with anything. It would be be no expression. There would be no music that would be different. It'd be a horrible place.
There'd be no communication majoring.
Yeah, and then I would be wasting my money.
There'd be no reason for it. It'd be a terrible society.
It would be. But I do got a few things before we start closing this out. Joel, I've had amazing time chatting with you. Thank you so much for stopping by. Obviously, with your channel, as I said, you got I think at this time over 30,000 subscribers. So like, what's your advice to people just getting started, or kind of those smaller channels they have? What's your best advice for them?
Keywords are really important. They really truly are. Don't make the podcast about you. It's not about you. It's about for reacting, let's say, it's about the bands you're reacting to. The people are not logging on to watch you. They're logging on to see what you have to say about the band they like. So push the band, not necessarily you. If it's an interview, don't talk so much. Listen to the guy and see what he has to say. Because again, it's about them. That's the whole point of it. Try and come up, if you're doing interviews, with questions that are a little bit out of the ordinary. Weird stuff, fun stuff. So I had on Stella McCartney. She's Paul McCartney's sister, stepsister. I had her on with May Pang, and May Pang was John Lennon's girlfriend. Okay, so I had them on together, and it's fun. And I had seen in one of the articles, or she used to just say it a lot in interviews, when she was a little girl, she was a little kid, and the Beatles were already very big when she came in the picture. And she said the kids would pull her hair, and they'd keep her hair, and other kids would steal the apple out of her lunch pail because her brother may have put it in there, right? And so when my first question to her was, so did Paul McCartney put the apple in the lunch pail or not? You never say so. You just tell her, it's like, I don't want to tell her. But what it showed her is that I'd actually spent a few minutes knowing about her. and I made a little bit of a fun joke about it, and then we moved on. But it took the levels down a bit. Am I going to bring up, lame stuff? Were you upset when Linda died? I mean, stupid stuff, of course. I mean, what the dumb question. So that kind of thing, something a little bit innovative, something a little different. And in the particular instance of the Beatles, what could you possibly ask that's not already online? It would be really difficult to do so. So something a little bit different. And then I have token questions that I ask always. Come up with a couple of your own that are a little bit diverse and you could get interesting answers from. So that's fun. My one actually came from a girl in 5th grade. And that's the question I asked. I thought was brilliant, actually. And so there's a few things. I do music people most of the time. Who's the most interesting person you've ever met who's not in the music industry? That's a great question. If the person is, I asked it to Davey Johnstone from Elton John's band. He's met everybody. So who's not in music? That could be an interesting answer, something different.
Very nice. I like, yeah, you have to have that little bit of, creativity with everything. Like, for me, I feel like I'm kind of stuck in a rut with some, I ask like a very similar questions each time. So I'm going to definitely try to vary some of the stuff I ask and do stuff like that.
It's harder to do it. It takes you more time to come up, especially if you start doing a lot of interviews. It becomes very difficult to come up with new stuff. The other thing is that some of your audience know what you're going to ask and they want to hear you ask those questions because they're going to do it. I spent quite a bit of time watching Howard Stern, David Letterman, and these guys that are really good at what they do. David Letterman, to me, was the best. A few minutes with Bill Burr, and just getting different ideas of how people run their shows. Joe Rogan is like chill, but he's like 4 hours of chill, and he kind of he slowly evolves to various points and stuff. Howard Stern beats the hell out of you. He intimidates you. And so these are different tactics, and you got to find what your skill is and what you're best at. Unfortunately, we're in an area right now where people focus on clickbait, and that's a bit difficult because you get reward from it. But how many of those people do you lose because your next video's not that? So.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely, that's double-sided, like obviously you can get, the clickbait out of it. And then some people, like if it's not exactly like the clickbait like what you put, if you don't represent it correctly, then people are like, oh, well, you didn't even talk, like I've clicked on stuff like, oh, maybe this would be something cool. And then it's like, oh, you didn't even cover it. You just put it in the title.
Yeah, so, it won't go good. And then I would recommend for people to stay at around a 10 to 15 minute and be done, because the average consumer only watches 6 minutes or 8 minutes of whatever you're doing. So brief, to the point, boom, the quicker stuff. Joe Rogan of 3 hours is just really hard. It's really hard.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think I've ever sat through or listened to like an entire episode of his. Like usually I just get, the clips online, which what I've been doing as well, putting up the shorts. If it's a cool, moment in an interview, I usually just put up that short.
Sure.
And obviously along with the long format too, but I've been definitely trying to, like, if there's a cool clip, just get that out as well so more people can see that too.
Yeah, I think it's a smart move. It's the way to go. And then every now and then you could be a little longer. Some of those interviews I had were like 3 hours long, and they're fantastic, but people don't sit there for 3 hours and listen to them. I haven't been doing interviews just because so much work, man, so much work. So I kind of chilled out on them for now. So I would do it again, but it would have to be something special. I did 100 interviews before I did a reaction video. My podcast was a whole year of nobody really watching, less than 1,000 subscribers. And I was having such a difficult time because my stories are good. My book is good. It's funny. That's why I did so well. But some of these guys I brought on, they started touring in the 60s, so their stories are insane. And I couldn't drive the traffic to get them to watch. And so that's what puzzled me. It was the challenge I was talking about. And I spoke to somebody and they mentioned doing a reaction video. I didn't know what that meant. And so I wrote it on a piece of paper, and then I typed it in. And there was a guy, I should know his channel, and he explained how to do it with the copyright blocks and not getting into trouble and all this stuff on YouTube. And so I watched that, and then I just gave it a go. I was horrible. If you watch the first few, they're bad. I'm talking the whole time, because that's how I remember Beavis and Butthead. They talked the whole time. So I was talking, and people were like, if you could just shut up. watch a video. And the second one, I was like, oh, I could shut up. So the second one I did, I stopped and started talking during the guitar solo. And they're like, who the hell stops this thing during that? I'm like, that's true. You probably shouldn't stop during a solo. And so it was a learning curve. And I enjoyed that people were watching. And I really enjoyed what I had said earlier. People saying, hey, you should, if you like that, because it was clear you really did, you need to check out a band called Baby Metal or whatever. And I would go and check it out and be like, oh, you're right. This is really good. And then I would jump onto that. And then it was that band Baby Metal. I thought it was so cool. And I watched like every video they did in 2 weeks. I just went nutty. But it was exciting. It was fun. So yeah, I would say focus on what you want to do. Try different things though. And don't focus so much on just having people watch you. It's like the field of dreams. If you build it, they'll come. If you're honest, if you have integrity, they'll come your way. And if you don't become the biggest guy on YouTube, who cares? So what? Just do it because you're enjoying it.
Oh no, for sure. Fantastic advice. With me, like my number one goal is I want to have fun. And if I'm not having fun, then I don't want to like do it. And that's just always my thing. Like I'm not here to make, to become rich off, doing YouTube videos. If that does happen somehow, I'm all for it. But I'm really here just to have fun.
I think stick with the fun. And also you don't know where things will lead. So I have some very good friends that I met because I actually brought them on the channel. So almost everybody on the channel were people that I'm friends with. But every now and then there was a couple. So Cosmo from Creedence Clearwater, I did not know Cosmo. And then he came on and yeah, I was lame. It's freaking Cosmo from Creedence Clearwater. And he was such a fascinating dude. He was so cool. His stories were so good. And he was so good at answering questions that are like tough. My big question was when he did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame performance, Fogerty had written that he must leave the building, that the guys they could not be there while he performed. And he performed, I think, with Bruce Springsteen, if my memory serves me correctly. So I asked Cosmo, where'd you guys go? Did you guys go get beers down the street? What did you do when you had to leave? And he wouldn't answer the question, but he skirted around it really beautifully. And that was a mark of a guy who's done a lot of interviewing. But I wanted to know, did you guys go drink a beer? What did you do? Because you were all together, the rest of the guys.
Interesting. Yeah, it is. You get those kind of moments with stuff, especially if you ask really good questions like that.
Yeah, he skirted around. What he said was, when we were little boys, we knew each other since we were like 14 years old, is what he told me. And he goes, so we were all playing basketball together. Everybody in the band, we were all playing basketball. And I said to them, guys, one day we're gonna make $100 playing music. And we kept playing basketball. And I said, each. And we all fell down laughing. And you know what? At the end of the day, we wrote some really good music, didn't we? And I was like, sir, you really, really, really did. And what a cool little story, because you can visualize these little kids not knowing they were literally going to conquer the music world for that brief time period they were coming up with those albums. It's not a long time. And this guy, when you're asking maybe a little bit of a dickhead question, but it's not too aggressive, but it's a little bit, the ability to change that question to go back to something that's really a wonderful moment and be positive. It was cool. And I learned a lot personally from that. I liked it. I did.
I know, just those cool moments. That's what I really cherish, with what I do. It's just those cool moments that, like, unexpected moments too that happen like that. Those, like, that's what I like. That's like what I like experiencing, what I like doing, and you never know when it's going to happen.
It's you don't, and that's what keeps it fun. Keeps us on our toes, man.
Exactly. We got to close out this interview because I know I said 40 minutes are already over that, so I do apologize for that. But
happy hour.
yeah. But before we go, so what are your plans? Like, how does 2024 looking like for you, Joel?
Oh, it's funny. I'm trying to chill everything out so I can just do a bit of personal traveling again and go have a bit of fun, go see people and chill. But it's been a lot of busy. So the day job is I'm actually a landlord. I'm a memorabilia dealer, art dealer. And so it's been a lot lately. I'm pretty pooped out. But as far as the podcast, I think I'm just going to stay steady as she goes. I'm kind of cool that I did burn out for a little while because I'm 20, 300 episodes, I think, in a year and a half now or something like that. So it's just a huge amount of content. But no, kind of like over that hump now. I'm happy, good. And I'm always eager to see what my next guests are going to have to say about these bands I like, and see what they see things that people point out stuff too, where you're looking like, man, never noticed that. That is cool. That kind of thing. So I think I'll be steady as she goes. Next year, I'm going to do some traveling around and just nothing crazy, but it'd be cool to go to Sweden and meet a guy named Tommy Johansson, who I do his video, reactions to the guy's videos. It'd be cool to meet somebody on their home turf, drink a beer or whatever it is.
Right, I do hope you have that opportunity to travel more, enjoy the time, and just chill out and relax. Because I know as you said, and as I've seen from all your videos, you have very high work ethic and work rate. So I hope you get to enjoy some time to relax.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man. We'll have to have a drink together someday.
Well, definitely, I would enjoy that. But closing out this interview, so for you, your podcast, everything you got going on, where are the best places to find Joel Roadie online?
Oh, okay. Probably just podcast. So if you just go to YouTube and type in Joel Roadie, you'll find me. I do have Twitter and all that stuff, but I never get on any of it. I'm pretty bad. It was one other thing that's a good suggestion too. There's so many Twitters and YouTube and TikTok and everything. Focus on one medium and try and be the best you can be in that particular. Then do the TikToks and the Instagrams. If you try and do every platform at once, it's just too much to do. So I personally focused on YouTube. But yeah, you can find me, Joel Roadie, at anything.
Right on. I will leave some links for Joel Roadie in the description of his podcast. Please check out his channel, Party Like a Rockstar. That link will be in there as well. Please subscribe. Joel, thank you so much for stopping by Super Cool Radio. It was an honor to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
I had a super cool time. Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate it.
Hey, that's what we go for here. If not, I would have to refund your money that you didn't pay me.
It's in the mail. It's in the mail.
Oh, okay. For Joel Roadie, I'm your host as always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for watching this is Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty.